Well, hey there, Ignite Youth. Pastor Aaron here. We had a blast last night at our Marble Wars, but what this video is about is not about our games, even though it was a lot of fun and we had some delicious meals. This video is a recap of our lesson last night. Now, last night we started a new series called A Visual Guide to the Bible, and I made it clear that this isn't just a series on going from Genesis to Revelation and looking at all the themes of the Bible. No, that's not what we're doing. We're going to be tackling tough questions like, is the Bible full of error? Has the Bible been changed over time? Is the Bible trustworthy? Can we trust it? Is the Bible actually, can it actually transform my life? Why do we trust in such an ancient work? Is it even relevant for my life? So we're going to answer a lot of these tough questions. I encouraged you to submit some questions. So over this week, even when you're rewatching this video, I encourage you to think up some questions, write them down, submit them to me because I would love to answer them. Not only to help you as a Christian to understand better about why we trust the Bible and how it is applicable to our lives here in 2019, but also so you can help give those same answers to your friends who are skeptics. Or maybe you come to our youth because there's a number of you who don't know Jesus, and that's okay, and you don't know much about the Bible, and that's okay. This will help give you answers to questions that maybe you've thought about, maybe if you've asked and never had a real answer to. I want to supply you with the right tools to have the right answers to these questions about the Bible. So last night, we started very basic. And even if you were there last night and you've heard this lesson already, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in some areas and expand on some different areas. So rewatch this video and be blessed. But we started with the basics last night. And don't just turn it off because it's the basics. The basics are very, very important. We should always go back to the basics. Even when we've moved on to deeper and better things, we should always go back to our foundation. Make sure it's firm. Make sure we're still believing what we said we would believe, because it's easy once we get way up here to start believing and thinking different things. So it's good to go back to the basics. So that's where we started. And we started with a lesson titled, What is the Bible? And you might have different thoughts that pop in your head when I ask you, what is the Bible? And that's okay. And we are going to answer that question, though. We're going to define what the Bible is. So what Christians call the Bible isn't the only Bible in the world. You might be thinking, well, what do you mean by that? If you browse your local bookstore, you'll see a handful of different titles that are named the Bible. For example, you might see the Furniture Bible, or you might see the Metal Detecting Bible, or the Jeep Owner's Bible, or whatever, How to Make the Perfect Big Mac Bible. You might see these different books that are titled the Bible. And what the author of these books are trying to imply to us, the consumer, is that this book is the authority on this certain subject. Meaning, if you want to know everything you need to know about metal detecting, you come to this book and nowhere else, because it is the Bible on this book. It's the authority on this book. I gave you guys some examples. What do I mean by authority? So a lot of times this is used, especially in the world of history. You have the authority on Rome, meaning this gentleman or woman, they are the authority on Rome, meaning if you need any facts on Rome, they probably know those facts. Not they know everything, but they know maybe they're all there is to know or whatnot about Rome. So they are the authority on Rome, and what they say normally goes. It's tested and whatnot. So this is what these authors are trying to say when they say the Furniture Bible, the Jeep Bible, or whatever Bible. They are trying to claim authority, and that's the same with our Bible, the Christian Bible. It is an authoritative work. It's the authority on what? I asked you that question. What is it the authority on? On life, on God, how we live and conduct our lives as Christians. The word Bible is derived from the ancient Greek word. Yes, we use Greek at youth. The ancient Greek word biblios, right, which referred not to just a particular book, but to the papyrus that was used to create early forms of paper. So that's what biblios was actually used before. Soon the meaning of that word had been broadened to describe a book or a scroll, but then it was narrowed to refer to a sacred book or a sacred scroll, and eventually it was narrowed even more to only refer to one particular book, which is the Christian Bible, the book that most of us own. So with that, we need to answer the question, what is the Bible? To answer this question, we need to look at the Bible's structure and the Bible's purpose. This may sound really basic for some of you, and that's okay. Like I said, we need to go back and go over the basics a lot of times in our life, but we always, so don't feel like this isn't applicable to you. Stay tuned, because you might learn something as well, because I did. So what is the structure of the Bible? If we're looking at the structure and the purpose, what is the structure of the Bible. The Bible, like any other book, has an eternal cohesion. I call it the scarlet thread, the eternal cohesion that fits and flows together. It keeps the Bible together. It's all saying the same thing. Remember, like, yeah, has anyone ever just read a book, or maybe your friend is trying to write a book and you read it and you're like, dude, chapter 1, really good. But chapters 2 to 5, what the heck are you talking about? There is no internal cohesion. Nothing fits together. You're all over the map. But the Bible's not like that. It has an eternal cohesion. It makes sense. You know, you've picked up a book from beginning to end. You're like, wow. That was amazing. It all fit together. It all came together in the end, and it just blows your mind. That's the Bible. It all fits together. It's all saying the same thing. And that's what one amazing thing. We'll talk about this in weeks to come, but that it was written by 40 different authors over around the span of 14 to 1500 years, and it all fits together without contradiction. Just amazing. From beginning to end, it provides a unified picture of who God is, who we are as humans, and what we need most. It's not merely just a collection of words and sayings and stories that are just been tossed randomly together, hoping that it fits and fixes your life, but it's information that has been carefully collected and carefully crafted and placed within a structure. Now, that structure of the Bible is split into two divisions, which is the New Testament and the Old Testament. So the Old Testament and New Testament, it's split into two. And this word testament would actually be better translated as covenant. A covenant, as we talked about last night, is an agreement between two parties that governs the terms of their relationship. So this is what governs the relationship between these two parties. I made the small little joke about when my wife and I started dating. There was the covenant or terms of the relationship. You can hold my hand, but you can't kiss me. Now, that wasn't true, but that's the example of what I'm trying to make with the covenant, that these are the terms, the boundaries of the relationship. So the Old Testament or covenant shows us the need of the coming Christ. That's one of the main themes. And while the New Testament shows us what the new covenant is, and that new covenant being established by the coming Christ. So the Bible is split up into two testaments, but within those testaments, there are individual books. And now the word book is not the most helpful term, since some of these books are actually just letters, and some of them are just collections of songs and poetry, and some are just 100 words long, like the book of Jude. But still, the word book has stuck over the years, and that's what we will refer to the books of the Bible as. So we have a division, Old Testament, New Testament, but within those testaments, there are individual books. So the Old Testament has 39 books, while the New Testament has 27 books in the Protestant Bible, making a total of 66 books. The Old Testament tells us of the creation of the world, the founding of the Israelites, the establishment of these people in the Promised Land, and their special relationship with God, and then their disobedience to God as well, and the resulting captivity to hostile nations. And then a constant theme, in the Old Testament is the promise of the coming Messiah, who will fully and finally free the Israelites from danger and oppression. The New Testament books tell us of the birth, life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. They tell us of the work of the earliest Christians and how they spread their message and how we are to spread the good news of Jesus Christ as well. They instruct us how to live as Christ, and also it tells us how God intends to bring history to a close. A recurring theme in the New Testament is that Jesus Christ is the promised Messiah that has been talked about in the Old Testament. How amazing is that? So we have two testaments, Old and New. We have 66 books, but those books also have names. Each book of the Bible has a name, and now those names were not given to the book when they were being written, but rather they were given the names over time. And a lot of times these names come from the main character of the book, or a main character, or the writer or author, or even a theme of the book. So, for example, the book of Isaiah was both written by Isaiah and about the prophet Isaiah. The Gospel of Luke was about the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, but it was written by an early historian named Luke. The book of Genesis, it goes off as its theme. There wasn't a guy running around named Genesis, but Genesis is talking about the genesis of the world, the beginning of the world, the creation of the world. So it was named Genesis. Psalms contains a collection of songs and worship songs known as the Psalms. And so that's why the book of Psalms is called Psalms. Acts describes the acts of the earliest Christians. So that's where the names kind of come from. Just, it's very brief. Any questions about that, please comment below, or get a hold of me in person. So within those books, so we have 2 testaments, Old and New, and we have 66 books that all have names, but within those books, we have chapters and verses. Books are divided into chapters, and chapters are divided into verses. These divisions were not present when the books were written, but they were added at a much later date to assist us, the readers, in finding a specific place within the Bible. It's kind of nice for when you're leading a Bible study, or you're a pastor like myself and you're preaching, and you tell the congregation to go to, the book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 4. Now, if we didn't have verses and chapters, that'd be a little bit harder to do, but now we have the convenience of chapters and verses to help us navigate the Bible and all stay on the same page. So I used the example last night of John 3:16. John is the name of the book, 3 is the chapter, and 16 is the verse. And if you open up that and you follow those instructions, you will then find one of the best, arguably the best and well-known sentence in the entire Bible. And I had you guys all repeat it that night, and you all repeated different versions. I heard some King James, that was crazy, some ESV, and some NIV, but it all kind of came out as a bunch of zombies dying. That's what it sounded like. But anyways, you repeated it, and that was great. So we have 2 testaments, Old and New. We have 66 books. We have names of those books. We have chapters and verses, but each of those 66 books fall into something called a genre. So you go into Barnes and Nobles or Chapters or Indigo, any of those big bookstores, and what you'll see is a plethora of signs that show different genres of sci-fi, of science fictions, of the world is flat, of Christianity, faith-based, and Buddhism, and all these different genres, or whatever you want to title a genre. And you see all these different things, and you go to your section, you find your favorite genre, you find a book that you want to read, and you're happy. But the same like that, you have all these other books in the Bible, these 66 books that fall into specific genres. And we talked about these genres, just like there's historical novels, there's home decorating genres, there's modern history genres. The books of the Bibles fall into a number of genres. So these genres make up history, they make up law, they make up wisdom, poetry, prophecy, gospels, epistles, which are letters, and apocalypse. Those are the genres of the Bible. So it might be a fun little exercise. The next time you're reading the Bible, you just kind of look at the book you're reading and you try to figure out what your genre is. Okay, I'm in Matthew. Oh, that's the Gospels. Oh, I'm in Daniel. That could fit into apocalypse and prophecy. I'm in Revelation. That's apocalypse. I'm in Psalms. That's poetry and wisdom. I'm in Proverbs, wisdom, Song of Solomon, wisdom, right? So you find the genres that these books fall into, and just have fun that way, and make note what genre it is, and it will make your Bible study so much more fun. So let's close this little podcast session with, what is the purpose of the Bible? One of history's most influential Christians said that nearly all wisdom we possess, that is to say, true and sound wisdom, consists of 2 parts: the knowledge of God and ourselves. When he spoke of wisdom, he was not just speaking of mere facts and stats to the kind of trivia that might make an awesome Jeopardy winner, but he was referring to the kind of wisdom that is life lesson. He was not just referring to the kind of wisdom that is life lessons that might be passed down from grandfather to grandson, but he was referring to something much greater and much more significant. Properly understood, wisdom is the knowledge of the world as it really is. It is a correct knowledge of who God is and who we are as humans in relationship to him. And further, it is an understanding of how we are to live accordingly to his plans, his laws, his statutes. In that way, wisdom is not just mere knowledge, just mere facts. Rather, it is knowledge that has been deliberately put into action in our lives. That's what wisdom is. The Bible exists to impart true and sound wisdom from God to humanity. It is through the Bible that we come to a correct knowledge of God and of ourselves. If we are to properly understand ourselves, we need knowledge that comes from outside ourselves. If we are to properly understand the world, we need knowledge that comes from outside the world. And the Bible is the source of that type of knowledge that comes from outside ourselves, from outside the world. It is God's revelation of himself to us. So we will dig deeper into that subject in weeks to come. But for now, it's important to know that the purpose of the Bible is to show mankind who God is, his plan to save mankind from their sins through his Son, Jesus Christ. So the Bible is God's gift to you. It's one collection made up of two testaments of 66 books, written, assembled, and preserved so that you might know him and his salvation in Jesus Christ. That's pretty cool. So that's the end of this little podcast edition of What is the Bible? Very basic, but you can build off these basic truths and form your foundation for us to answer these harder questions like, is the Bible full of errors? Can we trust the Bible? Has the Bible been changed? This is the foundation to answer those questions. Well, I had a lot of fun yesterday, Sunday, with our youth event. We played Marble Wars. It was great. We ran around, and then we ended the night with some sardines, and then we had this lesson. We started it off with a great meal, but next week, September 29th, I'm really bad with dates apparently. So September 29th, we are doing a joint youth event with the Alliance Church here in Drumheller. We're having a cafe board game night where you guys can order your cafe drink that's on the menu, and we'll have a lot of fun doing that. There will be a small lesson as well, not on this subject of a visual guide to the Bible, but it will be a standalone one. I'm looking forward to it. We are going to be starting at 6:30 instead of 6 because to accommodate for the other group as well. We'll be meeting at the Alliance Church. Your parents have all the information in their email, and it will be posted on our Instagram where you can follow Ignite Youth FBC, and it will be also posted on our Facebook group by searching Ignite Youth Drumheller. So get involved in some of those social links. Subscribe to this page so you can stay up to date on our lesson series, but also these one-off videos. You can catch the one before this, the steps to better devotional life, how to study the Bible, which will go hand in hand with this study. So make sure you give that one a watch as well. I love you guys. I'll see you this Sunday coming up, September 29th, for our board game cafe night at the Alliance Church. Be blessed. Remember, write down any questions you have about the Bible or faith or about Jesus, and we will answer them. Okay? Love you guys. Have a good week at school, and I'll see you Sunday.